Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you the day after a disappointing 1-0 defeat against Manchester City. I say disappointing, it certainly wasn't unexpected, but I think the manner of the defeat, the manner of the start especially, was a little bit disappointing because Arsenal kind of gifted Manchester City that lead, and once City were in front, then it was always going to be extremely difficult to Arsenal come back, given the form Manchester City and given they're the best team in Europe at the moment. You can't afford to give them gifts, and that's exactly what Arsenal did in the early stages, leaving Raheem Sterling, of all people, unmarked, about 6 yards out to head past Bernd Leno inside 2 minutes. He could have scored before that, in fact. Raheem Sterling, was a really, really bad start by Arsenal, all over the place, really. Stood off Man City, looked like they were terrified of them, and by the time they were 1-0 down, and then they did start to react, I thought they played better in that second half, and certainly the end of the first half. And they stayed in the game, which is something they don't always do against Manchester City, but they never really lay a glove on Pep Guardiola's side. I think Ederson only had one shot on target to deal with. That was from Kieran Tierney in the first half. That was decent strike from distance, but a comfortable save from Ederson. Other than that, he was really untested throughout. Arsenal did get themselves into some good opportunities, into some good areas, certainly in the last 15 minutes of that second half. The first half, I thought Kieran Tierney and Bukayo Saka started to cause City a lot of problems down the left-hand side. Saka was dropping deep, Tierney was going on the overlap, and that was when Arsenal started to cause some problems and ask City some questions. And they got in a few decent positions, but the final ball was always lacking, whether it was Tierney, whether it was Saka. They were getting into those positions, but then they didn't quite deliver that final ball that was needed to really take advantage of the situation. I think that's where Arsenal, in an attacking sense, let themselves down a little bit, because you're not going to get too many chances against City because they are so relentless. And it was quite interesting. I saw some comments on TV saying, from people at home watching on TV, thinking, City weren't really on it. But when you were there and you were live, it's just so noticeable. Everything's so quick with them. It's relentless. To be honest, it was exhausting just watching them in the opening half an hour. The speed of movement off the ball, the speed of movement when they're on the ball, the constant rotating of positions, the pressing, everything's so intense and so quick. And I can't imagine what it's like to play against, let alone try and deal with it from a manager's point of view and prepare your team to face a team like that. And it was certainly another stark reminder of just how far off it Arsenal are in terms of competing with the very best in Europe. And I think that's what City are right now. I think they're the best team in Europe, and they're certainly the best team in the Premier League. They're on the march to yet another Premier League title. That's 18 wins in a row for them now. They are most certainly heading to take the Premier League title back to the Etihad from Anfield. Looks like they're going to do it at an absolute cruise as well. Credit to Pep Guardiola for building another fantastic side. But yeah, it was certainly a stark reminder of the issues that Arsenal are going to have to try and deal with if they want to get back competing with the likes of City, because the gap is still absolutely very, very vast. Mikel Arteta speaking after the game, saying the reality is when you play against the best team in Europe at the moment and you give them something, you're going to make the game so difficult for yourself. To start the game the way we did, giving them the goal the way we did, you have to be exceptional for the rest of the game. You have to nail it in every single department, and we didn't do it. We had some good moments, and we had some moments where we really matched them and made it tough for them. But the reality is that when we broke them and we got into open spaces to attack and got in some good situations, which is really difficult against them, we lacked the final pass and the quality there to score, which is kind of what I was getting at there. There were some opportunities in that first half when they broke the lines. Saka dropped deep, Tierney got on the overlap, that you thought, there's a possible chance here for Arsenal. But each time the final ball was lacking, no one was picked out in the middle, and the chance was gone. City got players back in numbers like they do, and the chance was gone. So a difficult night or afternoon for Arsenal, one that certainly showed the difference between them and the best England and potentially Europe has to offer. And another defeat followed on from the recent defeats against Wolves and Aston Villa, an opportunity lost to go above Tottenham in the Premier League after their defeat at West Ham as well, which is frustrating. Arsenal could have gone up to 8th if they'd have managed to get the win yesterday, but as not, they stay at 10th in the Premier League, going into Thursday's night's game against Benfica. Mikel made 5 changes for that match yesterday. I think it was pretty clear what the priority was. I think we all knew that. Yesterday wasn't a game that's going to shape Arsenal's seasons by any means. They've lost 8 in a row against Manchester City now. they just constantly struggle against them. That's not going to define Arsenal's season and how they perform against Manchester City. Thursday night was clearly more important. You saw that with the changes. Smith Rowe was rested, Gabriel was rested, Dani Ceballos was rested. Mikel certainly had one eye on Thursday night's game against Benfica when he named his team selection, and that is absolutely understandable. That is certainly the bigger game. When you stood there at the start of last week, you thought the two matches against Benfica are Arsenal's most important matches. It's not the Manchester City game. Yes, you want to perform well against City, you want to try and do yourself justice, but ultimately what's happened against Benfica is going to be far more important to this season than what happened against Manchester City for Arsenal. And I think you saw that with the team selection that Mikel made. He said after the game, he said, we have a final on Thursday because we want to continue in that competition. We have to sleep, eat, and we won't have time to train, and then we fly it to Greece. And it absolutely is a final for Arsenal. There's no doubt about it. They should have put this game to bed with the first leg in Rome when they only drew 1-1. They let Benfica off the hook massively in that game with the chances they missed. Aubameyang having a bit of a nightmare in front of goal and then giving away the penalty themselves. They did get themselves back level through Saka's goal. He got the away goal and that could be key, but they've certainly left themselves more than they would have liked to have had to do in the second leg. And after what happened against Olympiacos at this stage last season, they certainly won't be taking anything for granted. And Mikel's absolutely right to call it a final because look, Arsenal are 10th in the Premier League. They're only 6 points off 6th in Liverpool, but you certainly feel that their best chance to get themselves European football next season is by winning the Europa League, and that wouldn't even be the Europa League. Obviously, it would be the Champions League because that's what you get if you win that competition. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that they still get themselves a European spot in the Premier League, but they've certainly left themselves a lot to do given the poor and inconsistent form during the first half of the season domestically. So, a lot of focus now has to go on the Europa League. It's important, it's vital for Arsenal. I mean, for Mikel Arteta, it is absolutely huge in terms of his plans for the summer and beyond, his transfer budget. If they manage to win the Europa League and get themselves back in the Champions League, then that is, it would be transformative for Arsenal and Mikel's plans because, we're not even halfway through the Arteta rebuild here yet. We're only just starting on it. And to push this rebuild on and to really do what Arteta and Edu want to do, they need finances. They're not going to get it from Stan Kroenke. They might get something from Stan Kroenke, but they're not going to get a lot. If you get themselves into the Champions League, then suddenly you're in a whole different ballgame when it comes to squad building and the money at your disposal to bring in the players you want. At the moment, Arsenal are facing up to a summer where they're going to have to sell to buy. There's a chance that Stan will find some money somewhere. I'm not saying he's going to dip into his own pocket and shell out a load of money because that doesn't happen. It hasn't happened before. I know people think it happened with Partey, but he's found a way of finding money from doing various things. It's not an absolute, he's not just handed Arsenal a gift to go and sign Thomas Partey. He's found a way of freeing up money for Arsenal to spend their own money, basically, to bring in Thomas Partey. And they might be able to do that again this summer, but they're certainly going to have to look to move players on to bring money in. We all know that. You're looking at Ainsley Maitland-Niles, potentially Reece Nelson, Joe Willock, Lucas Torreira, Matteo Guendouzi, those sort of players. If you can sell them, you're going to add more money to the transfer kitty. But if you can manage to win the Europa League and get yourself into the Champions League, then suddenly, boom, you're looking at a completely different ball game when it comes to building your squad in the summer and what Mikel Arteta will be able to do in the transfer market. So that's why, the Europa League is absolutely vital for Arsenal now. It's not probably, I wouldn't say yet it's all eggs in one basket, but it is very, very, it's clearly going to be the priority between now and the end of the season for me, no matter what Mikel Arteta says publicly. And that's why, he's every right to call the Benfica game a final because it is. Can't afford any slip-ups. It'd be an absolute disaster if Arsenal went out at this stage of competition again. Like they did last year, it would put an awful lot of spotlight on Mikel Arteta again. And he knows that, the team knows that, and that's why Thursday is going to be vitally important. Speaking about, whether there are going to be changes, we're going to see players come back in for the game. He said, I don't know if it will be 5, 4 or 7 changes. We'll see how the players react from today's performance. It was a really tough game physically because it was full gas from the beginning, and we'll see who's available and fit to be there. Obviously, we need a fresh team. We need legs as well because the decision making and everything becomes better when they are fresh. So let's wait and see who is available. Dani Ceballos is certainly going to come back in for that team. You imagine Gabriel's certainly going to come back in. Emil Smith Rowe's certainly going to come back in. I was surprised at some of the team selections, most notably yesterday, the fact that Kieran Tierney played 90 minutes and Bukayo Saka played the full 90 minutes as well. You kind of looked at that game yesterday and thought this is the ideal opportunity for Saka to get a rest, potentially play Gabriel Martinelli. But I think the fact that he played last night and he played the full game is just another signal of, Mikel just really feels like he can't afford to drop Bukayo at the moment, because he is Arsenal's best player. He's the most influential player. He's the one who makes things happen. And he's absolutely key. If Arsenal are going to win games, they need Bukayo Saka, but that's putting a lot of pressure on a young kid's shoulders. And I was surprised that he played yesterday and certainly played the full minutes. The same with Kieran Tierney. I expected Tierney to start. I thought they'd want to get 60 minutes into his legs before Thursday night's game, given he's out for so long, and he looked exhausted in the last half an hour. Really notably so. He looked tired. And I thought Cedric had come on, but he didn't. Arteta chose to play him for the full 90 minutes. It might work out to be a good thing in terms of fitness. You get those minutes into his legs early doors, but I was surprised, I have to say. Tierney spoke after the game and he said, I was just knackered. He said, it was a tough game. I wasn't sure if I was going to get the full game, but I did. It's 90 minutes under my belt and I'm happy for that, and I'm happy for the manager to give me that chance again. So Tierney happy. I'm not sure he looked happy towards the end. He was so tired. He'll certainly be feeling it today and probably tomorrow as well. But ultimately, it could be a good thing to get those 90 minutes into his legs early and make sure he is ready to play what could be, ultimately 120 minutes on Thursday against Benfica in the Europa League, because the game could easily go to extra time. And Arsenal are going to want everyone as fresh as possible, which is, again, why I was a little bit surprised to see Saka play the full game and Gabriel Martinelli not feature at all. And Martinelli's just not really in Arteta's plans at the moment. It seems like he's not really getting a bit of a look in. I thought he would start, I have to say. I was surprised that he didn't start, and I was certainly surprised he didn't come on for Bukayo Saka at some point during yesterday's game. Rob Holding, little one on him. He went off with a head injury yesterday. The concussion sub was used by Arsenal. David Luiz came on after Holding got a kick in the head right towards the end. Mikel said, obviously, that's a call that had to be given by the doctor, and that's the communication we got from him, so we decided to make the concussion sub. Obviously, he'll miss a few days now. He did also add in the talk to Sky Sports that he thought he'd be okay for Thursday night. So that was the first time we've really seen the concussion sub rule used by Arsenal, I think, which was quite interesting. But hopefully he'll be okay to play at the weekend on Thursday night if needed. I thought Holding did all right yesterday. Actually, gave away the first goal. Him and Bellerin. I'm not quite sure who was at fault for that one. Bellerin was tracking Sterling and seemed to stop as Sterling got into the danger area and gave him the space, and Holding had his back turned. So I think Holding probably thought that Bellerin had him covered and sort of switched his focus elsewhere. But in the end, they both left him in a load of space, and we all saw what happened. It was a bit disappointing. Finally, before I get onto my player ratings, quickly on Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, really difficult game for Aubameyang. I thought ball bounced off him a lot. He didn't really get a sniff in front of goal. I think when you look at it now, it was probably a better game for Lacazette, because Arsenal didn't have much of the ball, and when they did get it and played it up to the forward, you needed someone to hold it up a little bit better, and Aubameyang really struggled with that. He didn't get a sniff out of Stones and Diaz all the game. I thought Jamie Redknapp was pretty harsh afterwards. Aubameyang, just scored a hat-trick in his last league game, but he said, Redknapp in the Sky Sports studio said, Aubameyang is past his best, he's going to have his moments, he's going to get hat-tricks, but when I watch him sometimes it's like he's lost his superpower. I saw him run past people when he first came to the Premier League, I saw him run past people at Dortmund, now I'm seeing a player who looks like he's going to get bullied. I think that's an absolute overreaction for a headline, to be honest. I'm not sure that that's the truth. I don't think he's lost his superpower. When I look at Aubameyang, I don't really see that he's lost his pace. When he runs, he still runs pretty much as fast as he did when he came to Dortmund. Last season, he scored how many goals? He almost single-handedly won Arsenal the FA Cup. This season's been a difficult season for him, there's no doubt about it, but he didn't get many chances for the first half of it. He's had a difficult week with the misses against Benfica, and yesterday he just didn't get a sniff, but a lot of good strikers don't get a sniff against Manchester City. And I think Redknapp was going slightly over the top with that, I have to admit. Okay, right, let's talk about player ratings for you. Those of you who are interested, apologies I didn't get to do them straight after the game yesterday, but it was just a lot going on. So I will rattle through them now. For those of you who want to hear them. It wasn't, there's not going to be the highest of scores, I have to imagine. No one's going to get over a 7 for me for this one. I thought Bernd Leno did pretty well, as always. Didn't really have much to do, to be honest, after the goal. As well as City played, they didn't create that much in front of goal. And what they did, Arsenal defenders did pretty well to block and sniff out. And Cancelo missed one really good chance, which put wide of the target in the second half. I'm going to give Bernd Leno a 6. I thought he did everything that he really needed to. Hector Bellerin, I thought, he started the game awfully. Hector, he had a really bad opening half an hour. He did improve after that. The first half hour, his decision making was all over the place. I think he was caught out by the intensity of Man City, and it threw him a little bit, and he really struggled. I'm going to give Bellerin a 5. I thought, like I said, Holding and Mari actually had decent games. Holding, you could question him for the first goal. I kind of look at Bellerin more than that, because Bellerin was a man looking at Sterling. Holding wasn't. But I thought Holden had a decent game. He stood up to Man City really, really well. He barely put a foot wrong after those first few minutes. Made a couple of excellent blocks, and didn't really give the City attack much of a sniff in terms of the central striker. So I'm going to give Robert Holden a 7. I'm going to give Mari a 7 as well. I thought he played well on his return. Tierney, I'm going to give a 6. He worked really hard. He ran himself into the ground. You could see that by the end, but I thought his final ball, his delivery was lacking at times in the first half when he got himself into some good areas with Bukayo Saka, so he gets a 6. Mohamed El Neni, I thought, had a really poor game. Really struggled, perhaps unfairly thrown into that match by Mikel Arteta. I'm going to give El Neni a 5. I'm going to give Granit a 5 as well. I didn't think Granit had a particularly great game in that midfield. I thought Arsenal were overrun at times. Odegaard as well, I'm going to give him a 5. I thought Odegaard had a poor afternoon. Really struggled, perhaps again surprised by the intensity. This is his first game against Man City, certainly his toughest game since he came to Arsenal. Played in a number 10 role, but didn't really get a look in, to be honest. It was a difficult afternoon for him, so he gets a 5 as well. Nicolas Pepe, I'm going to give a 6. I just thought his work ethic was fantastic in the first half. He was really noticeable how hard he was trying. Didn't really get much of a look in through City and never really threatened. But I'm going to give him an extra mark from a 5, which I'll give him most of the team, just because I thought his work ethic was great. Saka was Arsenal's best player by an absolute country mile. Just absolute quality. The worrying thing for Saka is just how well, out of everyone, you just looked at him and thought, yeah, he'd fit into this Manchester City team really well. And Pep Guardiola was quite glowing of him after the game. So hands off Pep, he's staying put. So Saka gets a 7 for me as well. Man of the match. And Aubameyang, I can give Aubameyang a 4. I did think it was a really difficult afternoon for Aubameyang. Nothing really worked for him. His touch was pretty woeful. Didn't get a sniff in front of goal. Stones and Diaz absolutely controlled him for pretty much the entire game. So he gets a 4 from me. So man of the match, Bukayo Saka. But a difficult afternoon on the whole for Arsenal. Right, everyone, thanks for watching. Mikel Arteta's press conference ahead of Benfica will be on Wednesday evening. We're not sure the exact time yet, but it's going to be a pretty late one, I imagine, because the team are going to have to fly to Athens first, and Arsenal looks like, following UEFA rules, will have to do the press conference in Athens rather than do it in England before they fly out. So it's probably going to be quite a late one, but I will update you on that. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Enjoy the rest of your week. Please do keep following me on Twitter at Charles_Watts for all your Arsenal news, and also keep following all the news that happens from Arsenal on goal.com. Speak to you later. Enjoy your day.